All right, hello once again. This is Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College with part 2 of 3, talking about the person program that we did as a pretest today. In the last example, we went through the person class, which was our abstract class. We looked at the constants, the instance variables, the constructor, our setters and getters, our overridden toString method, and our abstract gross pay. So now in this particular example, I'm going to go through the worker class. As always, I've added the using static system.console here. So notice that worker is a person. Remember that colon means inheritance, which means an is a or an is an relationship. So a worker is a person. Based on our specs that we had, remember those specs, all right, those specs said that the ID number had to be between 1 and 100,000. The hours worked had to be between 0 and 84. The hourly rate had to be between 10 and 25. All right, so that's why I have created these constants. So there's our minimum ID number of 1, our maximum ID number of 100,000, our default ID number, which I just randomly set to 99,999, our minimum hours, which were 0 by our specs, our max hours, 84 by the spec, and the default, I cut it pretty much in the middle and I said 40 hours. The minimum rate in our spec, $10. The maximum rate in our spec, $25. The default rate, again, I arbitrarily chose $20. So those are the constants that I've both declared and initialized for the program. So these are what the worker class needs in order to do its job. All right, then we have the 3 instance variables for the worker class, those being ID number, hours worked, and hourly rate. So again, we look on here, there's the ID number, there's the hours worked, and there's the hourly rate. So that's what we're talking about here. You'll notice that in all 3 of these, so let's just take it from the beginning. There's ID number. The get is just a standard get every single time, whether it's ID number or hours worked or hourly rate. All right. And with each one of these in the set, I again did some input validation. Remember, value is the what's passed in right there. Okay. So if the value that was passed in was between 1 and 100,000, then use it. So assign it to ID number. If it's not within that range, then assign the default ID number, which was 99999. Similarly, for hours worked, if the value that we entered was between 0 and 84, accept it. So assign that to hours worked. If it's less than 0 or greater than 84, then take our default, which was 40, and assign that to hours worked. For the hourly rate, same kind of thing. If the hourly rate was between 10 and 25, then take that value and assign it to hourly rate. If it's out of range, meaning it's less than 10 or it's greater than 25, take the default rate, which is 20, and assign it to hourly rate. All right. Next, we have our constructor, and we're doing virtually the same thing in the constructor here. Same stuff that we just looked at. Finally, we override our toString method. When we override the toString method, what you see right here, everything in blue. So worker employee, that's just a heading that I added, but 0 is going to be the person's first name. 1 is going to be the person's last name, and 2 is going to be the person's ID number. And we get those from the base.to string. Then 3, 4, and 5, 3 is the ID number, 4 is the hours worked, and you notice that it's formatted fixed 2 decimal places, and 5, formatted for currency, is hourly rate. Finally, we come in here and we override the gross pay method. So I'm going to leave these up here for just a moment. And I'm literally going to step away for a minute, and I'll come right back, and then I'll move it down a little bit. I'm going to do this twice. All right, now I'm going to move it down just a hair. All right, now I'm going to move it down a little bit more. And finally, I'm going to move it down a little bit more. All right, and finally, let's see if we can move it down. Well, I guess not the rest of the way, but we'll put here for a couple of seconds the instructor, and then finally I'll move it down one last time. So we'll have the overridden two-string method and our overridden gross pay method. And again, finally, I'll see if I can move that up all the way. There we go. So I'll leave this up there for just a couple minutes, and then I'll stop and finally come back and give a quick presentation on main, which is our driver. So again, I'll come back in just a couple minutes and we will go over the program driver, which is our main. It's not very big. Again, we'll have the static system.console, but other than that, it's about 40 lines in length. So I'll come back with that in just a couple minutes.